What would you do if you woke up one day and discovered that you were the last person on Earth? Write in the comments what you think about it. What do you do? Enjoy the show. Story 1. As long as there are no corpses lying around creating biohazards in houses, stores, or cars, I'd just walk around to figure out what resources were still good and usable. I'd also head to hospital and pharmacy to pull meds and first aid supplies to have on hand, then hit up grocery store. Assuming power grid out, take fresh food as well as cold and refrigerated food first. Feed animals all over town, too. Go back for packaged stuff when the fresh stuff either runs out or expires. Feeding the animals would be my new job, so I would be occupied not thinking about people, as long as there are no bodies. Story 2. Rejoice. Pick out a place I love near water and food source. Set up some solar power and/or generators. Start stocking up on things I need. Set up info dump from the Internet of Things. Check out what's in library that's useful or fun. Rescue whatever animals I come across. Basically set up a sanctuary of all the things I need and love and finally get some freaking peace. Story 3. I'm about to go in everyone's houses, go in all the mansions, travel to where I can, go shopping for new clothes, get all the snacks and food in grocery stores I ever wanted to try, pick a house to settle down in. If I got pets dope, I'm living with them till I die. If not, I'll do one last effort to message and try to contact any place I can if no one answers. I'll then off myself when I'm ready and done enjoying life. Story 4. Travel seeking others. Establish a kind of home base. Leave messages for others. Get lots of things off the internet while still possible. One of the ones I haven't seen mentioned. The most advanced LLMs possible, while not intelligent per se, they would be useful as a way to interact with something that could give a reasonable response to interactions, and with unlimited access to hardware, you could run some quite impressive ones. I would also find and keep dogs and cats to keep some of them tame for companionship and safety. Try to rustle up a diesel RV and a small fuel trailer to extend range, and bring equipment to pump fuel from stations as I travel around the continent as much as possible looking for others. There's a chance I would take the risk of trying to travel to another continent, whether by plane or boat, but it would likely be several years before I would chance that. Home location over time would be being built to provide myself with as feasible a life as possible into old age. Keep building out a highly redundant solar system, an insulated greenhouse, play with hydroponics and aquaponics. Near the end, I would start to encourage my pets to be more independent. The end is up to chance. I may choose my end for whatever reason, or I may end or be ended by some poor decision or bad luck. This is all very hopeful, and I think with some of the ideas it may be quite a while, but I do think that eventually a lone individual would probably succumb to the call of the void with no hope. Story 5. Logical part of me would prepare for when everything stops, power, generators, etc. Then I'd source food and water, to survive as long as I could. I would also stock up with meds I need and first aid needs, then figure it out one day at a time. Non-logical go shopping, take everything I ever wanted. Rings, shoes, a car, everything I dreamed of. Feel rich for a second, then feel guilty for stealing, so take it back. If I only had one day to live, or was the only person alive, I would make it as fun as possible. Doing whatever I wanted to. It would mean silencing the part of me that knows right from wrong and good from bad, though. AKA stealing, LOL, but then again, noon is there anymore, so would it be stealing? It would cause a lot of ethical questions, that's for sure. As humans, we would go back to basics, though. Our first thought would be what we need to survive and for how long. Then it would be finding out for sure if no one else was alive. Whilst there was still time, power, and internet, then it would be day-to-day stuff. Eventually, people would have to find ways of staying sane. So turn to books, etc. Interesting question, though. Story 6, go to my parents' place. They have 160 acres down a dead-end road with chickens, a big garden, generators, solar power, wood-burning stoves, lots of guns and ammunition for hunting, plus 2 huge tanks for storing diesel and gasoline fuel. If you stored enough and added additive to it, you could make it last a long time. Even if it did run out, everything can all be done by hand if you needed, and the wood stove would keep you warm in the winter months. Story 7, probably attempt to assume electricity will continue running for some time, but can and will stop at some point. Go to grocery store and enjoy as much fresh produce as possible. Find a home with solar panels and a battery to store power. The house should also have electric stove, water heater, and electric HVAC. Find a Tesla. Start moving meds/water/groceries from store to said house. Mostly canned goods, honey, and other products that have a long shelf life. Figure out how many refrigerators can run 24/7 off the stored power. Create a cache of offline solar cells and power packs and store them for later use. Find books/DVDs/CDs for entertainment. Try to replicate this setup in other houses. Try to establish more of such houses to create a network of Tesla chargers. This should enable me to travel further. Go to library and gather how to books for skills that may come in handy. Perhaps basic medicine, carpentry, electrical engineering, survival, agriculture. Plant things. Are animals still around? Find drugs, alcohol to take the edge off for whenever reality hits. Story 8. I'd travel. I'd go see everything I could. I'd visit the White House, Dollywood, Neverland Ranch's remains. I'd also collect souvenirs. I'd go to museums and collect some of the best art and just random shit like going to baseball card places and taking the rarest cards. It would all be worthless, but it would be mine. I'd have fun collecting the rarest things possible without having to fly anywhere or use electricity. Just a vehicle. I'd probably use one of those trucks that can be used as a generator too. For all my electricity needs, gotta use the fuel while you can. I'm sure I could find things to do. For at least a year or two, I'd be fine. Eventually it gets lonely though. Do we get a dog or something as a companion? It might be worse after the dog dies though. Story 9. Listen to music throughout the whole process, take a shower, make a video stating who I am, what happened to the best of my knowledge, a few notable things about humans, and then post it to every social media platform I could find, and will, as putting the video on as many storage devices, USB stick, etc., as I could find, go into a pure forest/nature area and kill myself. Story 10. First things first, I'd go to establish a base of operations. Maybe going to take over a mansion with a large grounds I could use to grow veggies and have chickens and a cow. Ideally, if I looked around the outer suburbs, I might be able to find a property that has bore water coming from an underground spring. That would help a lot. Being out of the city would also be a good thing, given the city is inevitably going to burn down fairly quickly with no firefighters. I'd give it a few weeks before a random fire starts from something that is left plugged in, or the sun shining through a window, or curved glass onto something flammable. I'd need to move quickly to gather everything I needed. Then I'd go raid the supermarkets for non-perishable food like honey, dried noodles, pasta, etc. Also, bottled water. All the bottled water I could find. Bicycle tires would also be something I'd look to stockpile. Maybe try to find a horse too. Once I had the essentials sorted, I'd start gathering toys. Cars, bikes, libraries of video games, movies, books, anything to keep me entertained. Electricity would be the tough part. I could probably gather enough diesel to run a generator, but I'd need to start thinking about installing a battery and solar setup for more long-term reliable power. Realistically, I'd have no misgivings that I wouldn't be able to live like this for a long time. Eventually, I'd get bored or go crazy, so I'd have a painless suicide method planned out. But I could probably enjoy myself for a decade or so if I made the right preparations. Story 11. I would probably start by exploring everywhere I've always wanted to go but never had the chance. I'd also try to document as much as possible for future generations to hopefully find one day. But ultimately, I think the loneliness would really set in, and I would struggle to find a sense of purpose without anyone else around. Story 12. Yeah, after looking at some responses, if I was the only one to not get raptured, I would A. Find fertility banks with eggs and sperm to start incubating artificially. I'm assuming all of humanity's written knowledge still exists. B. And maybe most urgent, save all the pets and farm animals I can. Perhaps enlisting drones to shoot out windows. Unlikely, but would be nice to do. It would be very limited what one person could accomplish, especially with pets in cages inside homes, but it would help psychologically in coping with the initial trauma, i.e., having a purpose while you adjust. C. After that, try and secure the best situation possible to live. Nice house, pool, lots of pets, and hopefully eventually kids. I know that I have embryos saved from IVF that are on ice. I'm sure there are many more out there, and if there is still power, they'll be safe. Most of them advertise having backup generators for that reason. Might have to use a female pig as surrogate, but I should have many tries possible before exhausting supply if I'm willing to travel. I'm also assuming some internet still works and I can access it due to backup generator on my house and the local hub. D. Find as many of my favorite cars, planes, boats, drugs, guns, delicacies, and toys as I can and go nuts. Nobody is going to stop me, and I just got time to kill waiting. Also, while some power exists, I would download the Library of Congress and the entire internet, as storage space would be readily available in any electronic store, and server farms would have no traffic. Build a utopian society based on capital truism. My idea, capital truism hasn't really taken off yet, and I could use help and ideas, which is my cross of capitalism with altruism. My idea is that laws should protect and promote rising tides for all when times are good. Basically, it's pretty simple. Companies need to account for all environmental cost. CEOs and exec salary should be limited to a multiple of your lowest paid employee's paycheck. You want to pay $5/HR? Too bad for you, you can only have 25 times that. Other goals are to reward good behavior. You donate a bunch to an approved charity, not a money laundering front, then you can reward yourself a percentage, but you still have to also reward the employees that earned that money for you. Finally, companies cannot put the shareholder first and still earn tax breaks without following these rules. If they want to do business that way, then it needs to be regulated. Those that prove their contribution to the environment, to the society, to the poor, to the underserved, those companies and nonprofits should be rewarded. Also, there needs to be a tax on the environmental cost that the oligarchs have caused so far in generating their wealth. All of it came at expense of our sweat, tears, atmosphere, weather, environmental conditions, etc. Hasn't everyone paid enough through cancers, syndromes, and general misery and suffering that something has to imminently happen? I don't know what. Sorry for that rant. I just have some ideas about what might improve this fucked up society, and without any opposition, due to being the last on Earth, I was able to think about how it might start, and then just let the words flow. Delete or downvote if it doesn't fit. Story 13. I had a nightmare about this, one of those weird time skip ones where you jump ahead sometimes. It fucked me up and put me in kind of a survivalist mode for a few weeks. Firstly, let as many pets out of houses as I'm able. Secure groceries and fuel from nearby stores and gas stations before the power grid fails. Gather rifles and ammo from the local pawn shop. Learn how to hunt. Start farming at the local baseball fields, parks, schoolyards, golf course, even residential yards. Sort out a water purification system from the nearby lakes. Download and print out as much info as I can that I might need. Medical stuff, farming, etc. Story 14. Search for my specialized prescription glasses. 2. Gather the cats of my friends and open the doors for as many pets as I can. 3. Make a big fire to commemorate my friends and all that's lost. 4. Go tour all the places I was not allowed to. Sit on the PM's chair, that kind of thing. Tour military bases. 5. Gather a lot of food and alcohol. 6. Find a swanky estate and start a beautiful garden and tend to the pets to keep a life goal. 7. Probably find a gun and delete myself if I did what I could. Story 15. Pressurized propane doesn't expire like gasoline, so energy is no problem for at least a decade. Propane bottles everywhere. Find a big refinery and you're set for several lifetimes, so long as you know how to transfer. Nuclear plants won't melt down, but containment will fail eventually, so a 1000 m buffer is reasonable. First year or two is making my camp sustainable. All my years after will spent building all the shit I've never had time for, but already built in my imagination. Story 16. I would spend a couple weeks or months freeing my neighbor's pets. Probably stop doing that if I find one dead pet from starvation because it's been too long. I'll have a year to clear a path south to a more temperate climate, before all gas and diesel go bad. Get a couple comey-along winches so I can move very heavy things like cars and trucks off the road. Spend some time on the most geologically stable Canadian Shield, burying a stone tablet with my name engraved on it. Arthur Jeremy Pearson was the last human on Earth. Avoid hippos, polar bears, and big cats as best I can. Story 17. If electricity and water were still running, I'd probably try to live as well as possible for a while. I'd stock up on seeds and hunting supplies. I'd raid through people's liquor, cigars, and weed. I'm on the East Coast, so assuming the roads aren't full of abandoned cars, I'd get a truck and go exploring with my dog as long as I could get fuel. I'd do some boating, too. I'd try to keep my dog alongside me as long as possible. If I knew I was the only human left, I'd probably blow my brains out after he died, though, TBH. Story 18. It all depends on how tidy things are. I mean, if there is a bunch of corpses all over the place, that's just not going to be fun to deal with. Like, for real. Look at that multi-million-dollar yacht. Let me go sail the world on it. Oh, but that smell, though. Now, if it's somehow orderly like Plains Land, Cars clear the road and then everybody goes poof into thin air. That would be a world worth waking up in. Lamborghini across the US in record time? Yes, please. Private jets all over the world? Yes, please. Oh, look at that Blue Angels F-18 on the ramp. Yes, please. Power problems? I know an off-grid ranch in Utah. $25 million, nah, fly a helicopter there and enjoy having it for free. And of course, the absolute cherry on top, doing all of it nude. Story 19. I'm conflicted. One of the main reasons I've never explored my suicidal thoughts is I cherish the well-being of the people who would be affected. However, if I was the last person on Earth, I could get away from work, society's expectations. I could read all damn day, take naps, and not have to worry about bills. Of course, until I died from whatever illness took me. Thank you very much for watching. If you liked the video, like it, be sure to write comments, and share your stories.